Welcome to Stress Free Living. I'm Ray Somich. Of course, we have Ratanjit Sondhe with us again today. Hello, Ratanjit. How are you?
Wonderful, Ray. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Excited to be with you again. And once again, we're doing this by way of a Zoom call. So we do know that we have some people that are joining us on Zoom, as well as our radio and internet office audience around the world that is listening to us as easy as just telling your smart speaker at home to play, or just finding us on your laptop, your PC, your tablet, whatever you may be listening to, your mobile phone. Right now, we can get you. You can get us any way that you would like to. And if you have difficulty with that, give us a call. Let us know, or send us an email. You can click through any way here that you're listening with us on the radio, and let us know, and we'll help you get hooked up so that you can listen to us easily. Ratanjit, I think we really hit a nerve. We've been talking about insecurity, and people have really responded. I think there's a lot more people that are experiencing feelings of insecurity than maybe we thought. They're telling us about some of their own experiences, about some of the friends and family that have this issue. So I know you wanted to talk about it just a little bit more and get a little bit deeper into it. It seemed like we ran out of time, especially in our last show, just as we were getting maybe into the booster shot or the vaccine to be able to solve this problem. So I also, though, did a little research and got specific with what the experts say are the biggest reasons for our insecurities. And I thought today maybe we would go through those and get your take on what people who are experiencing the most popular types of insecurities, how they should address that, what they should do differently in their life to be able to overcome those. So how would you like to start today, Greg?
Yeah. Okay. Let's hear what you found. What you find.
Okay. Well, and I'll give you all of them, but maybe we come back and talk about them one at a time.
Yeah.
One of the biggest reasons is perfectionism. People
Yeah.
want to do everything perfectly. They think they should always look perfect. They think they should always say the right words, do the right things. They expect a perfectionism situation for themselves. And so, since that really isn't possible, we can't always be perfect all the time. That's an inadequacy that develops within us, and therefore an insecurity. So that's number one. Number two is people that have social anxiety. They're afraid to interact with others. They're afraid to go to parties. They're afraid to maybe even go in the office. They're afraid to go to the stores, of what other people will think of them. They'll be judged. They'll be judged on their appearance, on again what they say, what kind of car they're driving, all those kind of things. So they have a real lack of confidence around others. And the third most common type of insecurity are people that normally are okay, but they just had a recent problem, a recent failure. Maybe they had a relationship breakup, maybe they lost their job, maybe they had a financial crisis, maybe a loss of a loved one. And that has now put them into a state of fear that it's going to happen again, that this path that they were on that was a serious failure that interrupted them could now become the norm for them. So those are the three biggest reasons why people experience insecurity.
Well, absolutely. That these are because we are right from the beginning as a childhood. We are asked to compete. We are asked to become successful. We are put into the frame of mind that I had to do better than others. So that frame of mind actually, if you are not able to do that, either it'll propel you to unprecedented successes, or it propels you to seclude yourself and go into a half asleep. So I'm not going to go in public. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to try this. I'm going to fail. So it's all because of, we talked about in last show, is insecurity comes from fear of failure. And
Mhm.
all these things are fear of failure. What people think of me, what I'm not doing better, I want to be perfect. And all that is, again, fear of failure. But we don't realize the fundamental truth that within this human nucleus, if I only confine myself to my bookish knowledge, what I have been taught, what I know, what I've learned, and what resources I have, how much money I have, how much reach I have. This is how we define ourselves. That I'm only I I'm a poor guy. I'm a ordinary person. So based on that we limit ourselves, not realizing that we have access to the entire worldly wisdom. And when we connect to that wisdom, then we can overpower all our deficiencies. And if we are parked in I, me, and mine, and we will always limit ourselves. Or that is how we have been trained. That is how our school tells us, that is how our society tells us. And we are not shown a window to reach out to the universal wisdom. And once we connect to that, then we can overcome all those fears. People who were ordinary people, and you see instances of all kinds of athletes who have been injured, and doctor said you'll never walk again, and they said no, I'm going to make this happen, and they end up uh, defying sort of gravity and able to. And how did they find that energy, or how did they find that power? Because they dug in deep inside and somehow connected to the power through the faith. No, I have to do this, I will do this. And there's immense power in that. So that is how we can overcome our insecurities.
You know, you say all of those things, and I don't doubt that that's the solution, but that is such a monumental step. I mean, that is actually the essence of this path, this journey that we all want to be on, to realize that we're one with the universe. We're
Right.
one with everything. So we have untapped resources and unlimited abilities. But
How do we get there?
how do we get there? And just as importantly as how do we get there, my insecurities, if I have any right now, are real at this moment in time. And I need to overcome these insecurities to some level now. And if this is a lifelong path for me to follow and a journey for me to understand that I'm one, that this is all about oneness, meanwhile, I've got these insecurities that I have to overcome. And eventually that's going to cure them. But what do I do now? Because when I did the research, and I was really pretty amazed at how big a problem this is. I mean, you can just read thousands and thousands of articles written by therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, everybody on insecurity. I mean, this is a huge issue, and I'm sure there's people that are tuning in here that are saying, "Yeah, tell me how to cope with this today, Ratanjit. Tell me how to make a difference right now and overcome this. What can I do now while I'm working on this path to understanding the ultimate reason?"
Well, see, let me give you an interesting scenario.
Okay.
A lot of us are afraid of heights. If you are on the top floor of uh, a 100-story building, you're looking down, you're scared.
Mm-hmm.
But then you are sitting in a 3,000 feet airplane and looking down, and you're not scared because you have cut ties with the physical ties with the building. You are free, you're flying, you're free to. So the moment you cut ties with I, me, and my limitations, you have all the resources, you have no insecurity left. But it is difficult to find that plane which will carry you to those heights where the heights are suddenly, you're not, you can look down, it's beautiful. And you're not as afraid of height as you are looking down a 100-story building. Think of that.
Say, say that again. Say that again. I didn't grasp it.
See, if you are afraid of heights,
Mm-hmm.
you are in a physical building, 100-story building. On the 100th story, you're looking down. You don't want to even go into the balcony.
Right.
Because you're afraid of height.
Right.
And then you are sitting in the aeroplane, and the aeroplane is flying much higher than 100-story building. It's 3,000, 5,000, 3,500 feet. And now you're looking at mountains. I was visiting Mount Everest, and there was a plane flight, and they would circle around on the top of the Everest and show you. And Dolly was scared to go on the airplane. So no, I'm not going. So, but she was afraid to send me alone. So she came along anyways. But when the plane was looking down, she was the first one going to every window, looking at it, and the fear was completely gone.
Hmm.
So if I don't know whether we can relate to this, the difference between standing on a 100-story building is your feet are still on that building, and the gravitational force can throw you outside. You're afraid of that. But when your gravitational force is taken care by an aeroplane, and it is taking you to heights, and suddenly you are not, you're free. It's kind of a free in that situation. And in the worldly sense, that freedom comes to us by letting go of I, me, and mine, and connecting to that power. When we begin to see that universal power is what enlivens me, and that is who I am, then I have unlimited resources, and I have no limits to achieve anything I want to achieve. And as a consequence, the psychologists call it positive thinking, or law of attraction. There are so many books and written on law of attraction. Means what you can conceive and visualize, you can achieve it. And regardless of what your education, your background, and whatever it is. And that is basically connecting to that universal power. And how do we connect it is, I'll give you a step 1, step 2, step 3.
Okay. I've got to go back, since we have a couple minutes before the break. I've got to go back to your example, because that's why I asked you to repeat it, because we could probably divert and change the entire topic here and talk about phobias, if you will, of fear of height and fear of getting into an elevator and fear of going into an airplane and fear of flying and all those different kind of things that are real for a lot of people. They're very, very real to I've been with people that I've walked perfectly normal, regular people, and then I've come to an elevator door and they say, no, I don't ever use elevators. They just absolutely refuse to ever step foot into an elevator. And I would say, well, we're going up 20 floors into a major building. And they said, well, I'll take escalators. Well, there's no escalators, so you'd have to do the steps. And in those kind of situations, they kind of weigh in their mind the options, and they're saying, well, if I have to climb all those stairs, then maybe I will go in the elevator. But in those circumstances, I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to pretend I'm not in an elevator. And I've actually witnessed this kind of action from people. I know that's not exactly the same as your case, but I do think that there are people that won't go up into 100th floor of a building because they're afraid that the building will collapse and they'll be gone because they were up too high, and the fear of heights and all those things. But they will go into an airplane if they want to visit their grandchild in California,
Mhm.
because that's the only real feasible way for them to get there to see their grandbaby. So I think in some cases it becomes a game in our head, a balancing act of how bad do I want it. If I have to walk up 100 flights of stairs, I'll tolerate the elevator for 2 minutes instead. If I want to see my grandbaby, I'll go on an airplane even though I don't like to fly. And I know this does come back down to insecurities. I mean, the insecurities that cause us to fear our life, our death, are those same ones that are preventing us from going into an elevator or getting into an airplane. So there is relevance to what you said, but I think, I don't know if most of us on an insecure basis, maybe we are evaluating the options. Maybe the social anxiety that I talked about. Maybe people sit in their house and saying, even though I'd rather go to a party, even though I'd rather go where people are and have fun, it's not worth the risk to me of somebody insulting me or somebody making me feel bad or somebody making me feel inadequate. So they weigh the balance, just like flying in an airplane to see their baby, and they weigh the balance that says it's
What
not
I'm,
worth
what I'm
the
talking
joy.
about is not seeing the baby. There's a psychological difference when you see height from a building and when you see height from an aeroplane. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about incentive of seeing your grandchildren and you'll take a flight. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm
Okay.
talking about a person who is afraid of height, and when they are standing on the top of a mountain or looking down, or top of a building looking down, they are very afraid.
Right.
And but when they are in the plane, there is something different in the plane. It's flying. You're able to see this whole, because your focus is totally different. You're not seeing the height, you're seeing the scenery, you're seeing the glamour, all these things. So suddenly that height fear does not come into play. Psychologically, there's a difference when you're seeing things from the aeroplane and seeing things from the building. That's what I'm talking about.
So is your point that we have to change our perspective then? We have to change how we look at insecurity so that we look at
But
it like you do in an airplane, not like you do in a building?
well, see,
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. The difference is that you're standing on a building. It's all gravitational force holding you to the ground. The building is held by gravitational force.
sure.
Whereas when your plane is flying, that whole mechanism of flying counters the gravitational force.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you are suddenly not bounded by the gravitational force. And the gravitational force, which I'm talking about, equivalent in our life insecurity, is I, me, and mine, my separation of looking at me as me. And equivalent to that is the gravitational force, which gravitates you towards what is mine. Did I fail? I don't know this. I don't have this much money. I don't have this much skill. So all that thing is going to hold you when you relate to the separate entity, which I call me, which I call myself. Whereas once you get out of the separate entity, you get into a group, for example. When you are working with a team, you have higher confidence because some of these other people know as a group we can solve this problem. When you are in a complete town, you have much higher confidence. When you are looking at a nation as the United States, it can solve any problem. So once you extend your sphere of who you think you are, if you think you are Ratanjit, you have limitation. If you think you are a team of people, you have expanded your limitation. When you think you are suddenly the president of the United States, you don't have extended knowledge, suddenly you have all the resources available to you. You can solve any problem because now you have extended. So what I'm saying is the ultimate extension is when we connect to the universal forces, which is going to give you limitless capabilities and everything. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. You said you were going to, when we come back, you're going to do it in steps because I'm
Yes.
still concerned that it's a big, long journey, and I want
How
to
do we
stop.
get there?
How do we get there, and how do we at least take some steps in that path to overcome some of our insecurities? This is Stress-Free Living. We'll be back in just a moment. Okay, we do have a guest with us on the iPhone. There's no name associated, so we're not sure who it is that's listening as we are on our radio broadcast break. But we welcome you, whoever is using their iPhone
I
and
think
joined us.
it's probably Mr. Singh, right?
I don't know. Actually, his or her audio is not connected, so they're able to listen, but they're not on to talk with us.
Okay.
So we can't hear them, but they can hear us and maybe can see us too. All right. Ratanjit, I think it's really important that your steps allow people to start on this journey, and that, because we've always said that it's a lifelong journey to understand this, and I think people are looking for at least some kind of answers now, some kind of even if it's a baby step gain by starting to do this so that they can start overcoming this. If this insecurity is such a big issue, and it is, even if people don't grasp and aren't able to fully understand the oneness, can we give them some help right now so that they can start feeling better about their insecurity? I know we talked last week about all or nothing, and I think you kind of said it is all or nothing, but I'm hoping that I'm just trying to be realistic that people aren't going to suddenly understand oneness and believe in oneness, and then we haven't really helped them.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back in 3 seconds. And this is Stress-Free Living. Ratanjit Sondhe and Ray Somich with you. Thank you so much for being with us. We are continuing our discussion about insecurity, one of the biggest problems that pretty much all of us feel. Maybe some of us feel it on a daily basis or hourly basis, and maybe some of us only feel it certain times of our lives when we go through certain issues. But I'm pretty sure that everybody has had some experience with the devastating effects of insecurity, where you just kind of want to go into your room and close your doors and not talk to anybody, not be with anyone, and just kind of overcome it internally, and then you go back out and restart your life. So Ratanjit, if we acknowledge that there are a lot of those feelings out there, and that perhaps it's a long time journey to completely overcome those, What can we do? How can we start on that path? Step one.
Last show, we talked about the vaccination for insecurity, and this show we are talking about the booster shot
Yeah.
for insecurity. The last time at the end, we ran out of time, and we talked about the vaccination was gratefulness. Once you are grateful for life, for things which are given to us, then you can cope with insecurity. But what happens is people sitting there says you suddenly cannot, if you ask somebody to be grateful, suddenly you cannot be grateful until you have a habit of appreciation. A lot of us are parked in because your human body is designed to constantly look for what is not right. So that's why it is parked in fear. It's afraid of heat, cold, and it gets so until we develop a habit of noticing something which is good, we are not going to become in the mindset of appreciation. And there's a prerequisite for gratefulness is appreciation. So we have to begin to appreciate our life. We have to begin to appreciate this human body which is gifted to us. We have to begin to appreciate our family, our conditions we live in, that I can breathe, I can see, and we begin to, and this one puts you in the positive mindset. To get out of insecurity, you have to transfer yourself into a positive mindset. It is only in the positive mindset we have desire to take on challenges.
We explore this step a little bit more. I'd like to spend a few more minutes on it. I have the wonderful blessing of having 12 grandchildren, and it's so wonderful for me to experience that. It's such a joy, and I'm so grateful for that. But one of the reasons I'm grateful is that I watch these kids grow up, and I have more time than I did for my own children, so I can see the evolution of their thought processes as they age. And to your point of always looking for the wrong thing, when we are tiny children, we aren't that way. We have so much excitement about everything.
Right.
We have no value. We don't know if something's worth 10 cents or $10,000. We don't understand that yet.
Right.
We don't know how high. We don't know about Disney World, so we think that a teeter totter in the backyard or a slide in the backyard is the best thing in the world because we haven't experienced how great it could be yet.
Yes.
You know, we have had disappointments, but we just brush them off. I mean, something didn't go right as a little child, but that's okay. I wake up tomorrow or I wake up 2 minutes later and I do something else. So I see that in young kids. Beautiful, perfect excitement, joy. And then I see as we age, even by the time we're 7 or 8 or 9, now there's more fear. Now there's more, well, maybe this isn't going to be as good. Now there's so much, it seems like the disappointment comes in so much. And by the time we're 15 or 20 or, into our adults, it's gone. I mean, now we are truly looking through a half empty glass for everything instead of half full. What is that? Is that, has life hardened us? Is that what happens? The disappointments cause us to be skeptical and worried? Why do we do that?
The key difference is, Ray, as a child, there's one element missing, which in our all adulthood, we carry that. And that's an erroneous, we call it a fact. As a child, we do not understand ownership. When you are on a beach, you are building a beautiful castle.
Mm-hmm.
So a child takes as much pleasure in building the castle as much in destroying the castle. When mom says, okay, let's go home.
Yeah,
So they jump on it, they destroy, they are having as much fun destroying the castle, which they have worked so hard at it.
you're right.
So that is why they have no ownership. They are living in the present moment, whatever is in front of them, that they utilize, and then it's gone. It doesn't matter.
You're
When
right.
we grow up, we systematically teach children that is not yours. This is yours. This is your father. This is your mother. This is your home. This is so suddenly we give them this erroneous understanding of ownership. Whereas the truth we should tell the children is that in this human body mode, it is impossible to own anything. So everything is given to us as a gift temporarily and depends on how we utilize that gift or allocations are enhanced or depleted. But we do not own anything. And that gives rise to appreciation, that gives rise to gratefulness. Because if I am a visiting guest in somebody's home and that other kid shares with me the toys, then I appreciate. Or if you are a guest and I have allowed you to take my car and utilize my car, you appreciate that because you do not own that car. Whereas we live with this false presumption that I own things. Whereas if you remove the ownership paradigm, see, fundamentally, if you cannot even own this human body in which you reside, it can be taken away from you at a moment's notice. How can you possibly own anything else? So that is where the seed of appreciation comes in. That's where the seed of gratefulness is planted. So the difference between child and grown up is that.
That is so powerful. That is just so very powerful and insightful. And I'm so glad you shared that. To me, that'll be the huge nugget that I take away from this program, because you are spot on with that. You are just absolutely right on. When we and you always had a great story that you shared in other ones where we were guests in a king's mansion, and the king said, do whatever you want, enjoy everything that's here, enjoy yourself, have all you want to eat and drink and play with and work with, and all the different things that are in the home. But there will be a day when you'll be called, when you'll have to leave, but enjoy everything. But it's not yours, so don't take it with you, but you can use everything that we have here. And that's basically what we've been given in our life, right? And we don't know what that day is that we're going to be called and told we have to leave the mansion. But in the meantime, just enjoy it, but know that it's not really yours. And that is so powerful, because now we don't have to worry about losing anything.
Yep.
Because we don't have it anyway. We just can enjoy it while we're here. And I will do my best to teach these grandchildren that, go back to the way you used to, where you build a castle and then you tear it down. And that's perfectly okay. Live in the joy of the moment with what you're doing.
Right.
That is just so powerful. Now, that does connect to this insecurity. You're right on with that, because when we think that everything matters and that everything is within our ownership and within our control, then we're afraid of losing it.
Right.
And we're afraid of people making fun of it, and we're afraid of people knocking us down because we like this or think this. But if we don't take ownership of that, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't, if it's, this is empowering, and I do think that you've helped with this level, even if it doesn't take us to the end level, like I said, the end of the journey. I hope that people, let's go back and do this, because it's so important. One of the biggest things that happen is that people listen to the show and then they come back and say, I loved it, it was great, it was powerful, but I don't know how to apply it. So if you would, help me how to apply it. Let's say that this person that is afraid to go into the house, afraid to go to a party, afraid to go to work or whatever, because they're afraid people will think that they're inadequate and they're not good. So how does this last thought of ownership, how could that help them to overcome their insecurity? Is there a connection that we could give them?
Well, see, fundamentally, what happens is when you are insecure, you are in the negative mind frame. You are afraid. You don't want to do this. You are thinking, no, I don't want to have this. But once you are in the mindset of gratefulness, because once you look at, see, the exercise which we gave last show was standing in front of the mirror and looking at you, and what you see is your own image, and then you realize the capability of this human body is able to generate its own blood. Heart pumps the blood in each part, and you can move all the parts. It's an amazing tool. It memorizes things, it smells things, and you capture the smell. And so there is unlimited capability this human body has. And then you realize that gift of this human body is given to me. And when you breathe, every breath reminds you that this gift is still with you. So there is no bigger gift than this human body. All your capabilities, all your feelings, all that comes through this human body. So now, with every breath, if you can feel gratefulness and you are grateful, and your focus is on that gratefulness rather than what you don't have. See, if you are in the human body mode, when you lose a tooth, your tongue always goes there, which is missing. So we are designed to always look for what is not there. Whereas we should change our focus to things what we have. There are people who are handicapped. They don't have a limb, they don't have eyes, or they cannot hear, but still many of them live a complete full life because they are grateful for what they have rather than focusing on what they don't have. So once you are on that mode, then you are able to have a better control in your life. You are much more reasonable to try new things. You are not afraid of losing because you have the biggest gift. See, if you have won $1 billion lottery and suddenly you lost your $100,000 car, it's no big deal, right? So, but if you lost your $10,000 car and you don't have any money, then
it's a big deal.
Big deal.
Right.
So once you realize the biggest gift is this human body and you still have it, all these other things, all your failure, all your drawbacks don't make much sense.
In your example, and you have done it at great length, in standing in front of the mirror and being grateful and realizing that every breath you take is a gift. But you've added a little element here with the ownership concept, and it makes it even a little bit more powerful. with the idea that says, yes, I'm grateful with every breath I take. I'm grateful for this present mode and this present moment. And I realize that it's a gift. But if there is also the reality in my mind that says, but I am not in control. I don't own this body that is taking this breath at this moment. And that the reality is, I have to admit, I may not have that next breath because I'm not in control. I don't own this body.
Yes.
Okay. And that takes your gratefulness mode to an nth exponential level.
Yes.
Because it's one thing to have the reality that this is a beautiful moment. It's another thing that says, but it's a gift and I am not in control and I don't own it. And so I really, really should enjoy this moment. I really, really should be grateful for this moment because it's not promised tomorrow.
Yeah. See, if you have lost suddenly because of some stroke or something, your eyesight,
right?
And suddenly, and doctor says that it's not going to we'll try everything, but it doesn't look good. But suddenly, out of the blue, you got eyesight. And now you're looking at this flower, ordinary flower in your backyard, and you are now not only appreciating the beauty of the flower, but your capacity to see the beauty. And you are so appreciative of that capacity or capability of seeing the beauty.
And your capacity to store in your memory the beauty of that.
Right.
Because you know now that it may not be there tomorrow. You may not have that ability to see it live. So you take the effort to say, okay, I got to remember this.
Yes.
Okay, which is again part of the nth level. Now we have to take a break, but when we come back, as great as what we've just talked about is, as powerful as it is there insecurity in the understanding that I don't own this body, I don't really own this moment, and it could be over tomorrow. Okay, so how do we overcome that? Because I'm grateful for this moment. It's a blessing. It's perfect. It's beautiful. I've been given this gift. I'm breathing, but now I have to worry that I won't have it tomorrow. How do we overcome that insecurity? I'll give you 2 minutes to think about it, Ratanjit. This is Stress-Free Living. Ray Somich, Ratanjit, Sondhe with you. We are joined by some of our Zoom friends here today. We're glad to have you and all of our listeners worldwide. Thank you for being with us. We'll be back in just okay. 14. All right, we have an additional Zoom listener with us. So we welcome you. Thank you for joining us. We are winding down the show. We've had a couple of segments already, and we will come back in just a moment and have our final segment of the day, but we welcome you. Thank you for joining us, both of you. Ratanjit, is there anything other than what I just said? Is there anything that you especially want to make sure we cover in the next couple of minutes?
Well, let's connect to the divine resource and let's see what comes in.
All right, sounds like a good plan. That's where all the good stuff comes from.
Right. We don't prepare anything. We don't look at any.
No, we don't. Our viewer, if they're watching us, they can know that this is pretty spontaneous. There's no script here. There's not even an outline because when we used to do that, it never worked. So we did that for the first couple of shows, and then we says, no, let's just see what happens. All right. We still have about a minute left in the break, then we'll come back. And I will ask you that tough question though, because now we can take a moment of pure gratefulness and we can add insecurity to that moment. So how do we prevent ourselves from doing that? Because that kind of defeats the whole purpose. And if we have time, I'd like to go back to the perfectionism a little bit too, because that was the number one reason how we fight that. Okay, we have about 10 seconds.
Okay.
This is Stress-Free Living. Ratanjit Sondhe and yours truly, Ray Somich, with you. Thank you so much for being with us. Continuing our discussion on insecurity. And Ratanjit, I gave you a very, very difficult question to ponder for the last couple of minutes, and I hope you have an answer, because you suggested that we go into a mode of gratefulness. And the wonderful way of doing that is by standing in front of a mirror and looking at our amazing computer, better than any computer that's ever been devised, human body, and realizing what we can do and how this was a gift to us, and also acknowledging that we don't own it. So we better appreciate it because we may not have it tomorrow. And in that reality comes fear of death again, and awareness of our own mortality. And so what sounds like an incredibly powerful way of being grateful could end up with saying, but I could die in a minute and be gone and lose everything. So how do we avoid tagging that on at the end? How do we just stop at the grateful moment and not worry about it taking to us to a point of but we're going to die? How do we avoid that?
Imagine there are two kids, both turned 16.
Okay.
So one father of one child bought him a very jazzy sports car worth $60,000. And the other one could barely afford, so their second kid got a old beat up car. And now if the person who got this beautiful car is constantly worried about the car, but he doesn't have any purpose, he's going around polishing the car, going around the block, showing off the car, and then he constantly worried about somebody's going to scratch it, somebody's going to destroy it. Whereas the other kid, he was given a mission that, look, there are so many people who do not have their way to go to work. So utilize this vehicle to help people where they want to go. And so whose life would be better? See, until you understand this beautiful human body which is gifted to us, we do not understand our purpose of life. Then this human body, we are constantly going to hold on to it. As it ages, we are worried the wrinkles are showing up and all that. So constantly we'll be insecure about this human body.
Mm.
Whereas once you have a purpose of making a difference, then it doesn't matter as the human body ages and you are making a difference up to the last breath. So when we are sent here by the universal forces, they have gifted you this amazing, beautiful vehicle, which is capable of doing so many things. But don't get enamored by this vehicle. Be grateful so that you can utilize this vehicle to make a difference and bring joy in you. So that is the purpose.
So is so beautiful what you just said, and powerful. So just for my own mindset and maybe for our listeners too, because I gave you a real clear-cut example. If in my example, when I suddenly went from a state of gratefulness to insecurity because of the ownership idea and the fact that I could die tomorrow, so I won't have this anymore, I truly was focused on me. I truly was focused on wow, this is great for me that I'm breathing. This is great for me that I have this amazing computer body. And I was focused to the nth degree on saying, but now I may not have it tomorrow, so I'm really worried about that. I'm insecure. If instead I stand in front of the mirror and I say, I have this amazing computer body that can do all of these things, and I am grateful for every breath, so I can use this computer body and this mind and this experience and this opportunity of life to help other people.
Yes.
And boy, I better start moving on this. I better do this, because the reality is I'm not promised tomorrow. So I need to do this tomorrow to really help everybody I possibly can at this moment in time. It does shift my brain away from being worried about me,
Yes.
to being worried about what I can accomplish to help everybody else.
And also, Ray, when you're afraid of, say, going into the elevator, going into these things, if you are trying to save your grandson, or because that is the only way you are going to take him to the next level, we are going to see the doctor,
Mm-hmm.
then you won't be, all your fears go away.
Mm-hmm.
So to get rid of our insecurity, bring in a lofty purpose which makes a difference to humanity, makes a difference to everyone unconditionally. The more unconditional that is, the more joy your heart is going to experience. The gift is in the joy. So, gift is not in the medal or trophy or people recognizing you. You already have that gift of feeling great about that mission and the purpose which you are carrying out.
If I'm afraid of interacting with people, I'm insecure, I have anxiety about going out where other people. But if I was going and maybe working at a soup kitchen, and I volunteered my time to help serve people food because I know there's homeless and hungry people out there, then that is a way to overcome the anxiety too, because now I'm going for the purpose of helping others. I'm going to volunteer my time or my talents to do this. So I don't have time to worry about what they think of me, or what, how they think I look or act or whatever, because I have an intention now. Is that that's an example, right, of overcoming that?
And the same thing, let's move it to the business world. If you are starting a business, and the purpose of starting a business is to become wealthy and be successful and all that, you will have insecurity and you will have stress. But if your business is based on a particular model which is bringing something amazing to a human race, curing a person, or bringing something which is going to clean up the environment, or it is going to provide uh, electric power at no pollution, or any of these things, if we are adding value, then your incentive is going to be much more different. And your success is going to be much higher, because possibility of success is going to be much higher.
You know what? If whether it's going to a party or whether it's starting a business, I mean, two extremes in terms of importance. But if you can't find a purpose in what you're doing, then I guess the flip side of what you're saying is that there probably isn't reason to do it anyway.
Right.
I mean, if you're not adding value with that, if you can't find a purpose in that mode that's enough to overcome the insecurity, then you should be questioning why you're doing that.
Right. See,
Right.
if your purpose is to enrich yourself, just to do it for me, you will have insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
If the purpose is to enrich your neighbors, your society, your human race, you will overcome your insecurity.
So
That is the booster shot.
it is, and it goes back to that word conscience that we have talked about in the past too, where your conscience does guide us. if we allow it to really do its job within us, that conscience will guide us on the right path. And it'll tell us.
And once you are in the mindset of noticing good things, and then you also make your team much more powerful. Rather than you are critiquing them, you're constantly looking for goodness in them, whether it is your family or your friends or your team. You empower them, because when you look at the goodness, you witness the divine power, because all goodness comes from the divinity present within us and other people.
Ratanjit, that's a great note to end this show on. We want to thank you very much for your time and your wonderful insights, sharing our conversation. We thank you so very much. And thanks to all of our audience, whatever way you're listening, we appreciate and are grateful, very, very grateful for you. Remember, folks, we're all playing the same game. Have a great day. We'll talk to you again real soon.